it's hard to see how that ended up happening, Stephanie, because it looked so unlikely, but Portugal, they did the business in the end.
Yeah, it was heartbreak really for Hungary, wasn't it? You thought maybe they might nick it, and then obviously I think we talked about the bit of luck that they had in the first half with Portugal not scoring, and I think in fairness, a combination of the quality that Portugal had on the bench coming on and that little bit of luck for that first goal has set them on their way, and they went on to a big victory, which I think wasn't really expected, as you mentioned, within those last 5 minutes. But a great win for Portugal, and it sets them on their way now in this group.
And that man as well, we're going to talk about him later, but his 106th international goal, 4 away from a record now, Kevin. Yeah. You wouldn't bet against him to get it.
No, definitely not. It wasn't the performance we expected. The result was what we expected, not the performance. All over the pitch, Ronaldo as well. We spoke at half-time about Ronaldo, though. What he doesn't play well maybe for 85 minutes, but he's the one taking the penalty. He's the one that then scores the next goal. It doesn't matter what his form is or how he's going the game, he's always stands up to be counted, always contributes at the end. That's why he stays on the pitch for 90 minutes and why he's got all those goals.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's heartbreak for Hungary. We're looking at their fans there. Ultimately, it is disappointment for them. But Kevin, you look at the Hungarians there, like they really, in a lot of ways, they didn't deserve that.
No, yeah, I really felt sorry for them when they scored that goal that was disallowed. We were all standing up cheering here. You really get on their side. See the work and the effort they put in, the players all over the place. They're centre forward for playing centre midfield. That was your worry. Can they maintain that? You could see Portugal growing into the game. The first half, Portugal were unlucky, probably should have scored a couple of goals. And that's what putting all those people behind the ball does. You invite that onto you. It's a big risk. You're hoping for luck to go your way. It felt like it was going Hungary's way. They were actually starting to break themselves and create a few chances. But yeah, not to be the class told in the end. A couple of substitutions made a big difference. The key impact, Silva, when he came on especially. But it's nice to see Hungary players staying behind, their fans staying behind, cheering them on. They know the effort they put in, the performance they put in, because they were real underdogs coming into that game. No one expected anything from them, and they gave us a good show, and probably deserved to lose in the end, in fairness.
The question is, what does it take out of them, Stephanie? Because they were in that game for 80 minutes,
Yeah, I think it's going to be more of the same in the next 2 games for them as well, isn't it? It's a tough one for them to take, I think, mentally. They'd be drained physically, obviously, but I think mentally to get as far as they did into the game and then concede 3 late goals, it's difficult for any team. We spoke about it at half-time. I've played in games for Ireland where you've had to sit in like that, and it is a sucker punch when you lose the game in the end. But as you say, I think you can see by the fans' reaction there, they were excellent throughout the game. I think Salai particularly was excellent all game. He ran his heart out, and all the players did, to be fair. But yeah, it will take a lot from them physically and mentally to get prepared now for the next game, where I'm sure it'll be more the same.
And from that disallowed game, or from that disallowed goal, I should say, 4 minutes and 16 seconds, and the ball is in the net at the other end. I mean, it's amazing how sport just flicks so quickly.
A deflected goal, ricocheted about a bit, deflected goal, and then, as difficult as you come out of that game and you're down in the dumps, and then you look at your group and you've got to face France next, and where do you go from there? And France are arguably a better team than Portugal. Hard to regroup, get going again, believe in yourself again. You believed in what you were doing today and it was working, and then Portugal got the better of you. And how do you go out and put the same belief into the next game against an arguably better side? It's tough for Hungary. Everyone expected them to lose, and it was a big full house crowd, big atmosphere, their home stadium, and they put in a performance that deserved those, I suppose, attributes. Deserved, their home fans got a performance they deserved, but it's asking a lot for Hungary. A team, we saw them play against Ireland a couple of weeks ago. We knew they were going to struggle. They got in through the Nations League qualifiers, and thrown into that group. A real tough ask for them.
Well, look, they held out for 84 minutes, but eventually Portugal did get this opening goal, Stephanie.
Yeah, and again, as I said, the quality that they have on the bench. I think Renato Sanchez, particularly here, was resilient, and Bruno Fernandes, should I say, he gets the ball in there, and it's come to him. And it's a sloppy goal. We spoke about it. We talked about the luck in the first half they had, and this is kind of just a little bit of luck that's fallen to Portugal. It's come to him. Guerrero's got the shot on goal, and it's got the deflection off Orban, who we have talked about all game. We talked about how good he was defensively, and it's just that little bit of bad luck that's gone against them. And as I said, it was a moment, a good pass from Fernandes to set them through, and it was a ball back, and it's a bit of luck that maybe Portugal deserved, I think, to a certain extent, but it's a sucker punch for Hungary after that kind of disallowed goal as well.
And all the good players they have as a centre half that ends up in the box.
Yeah.
All the top players listed out was the last person you'd see, and it wasn't from a set piece or a corner, it was during the run of play, but that's the way it was getting. it was getting desperate for Portugal. 75th odd minute, and they, you know, everyone was being thrown forward. You know, it was comfortable for them in the end, but not at that stage.
Heartbreak for Willie Orban as well. I mean, you had said earlier you thought he was having a great game. You know, Stephanie referenced it there. Then he gives away a penalty as well. Really difficult.
Yeah,
you know.
Listen, your top centre half, you have to concentrate for 95 odd minutes, as was in this case. He was brilliant up to that point. Headed clearances, you know, all over the pitch, both ends of the pitch, and here he gets caught wrong side. Great turn, bit of pace from Silva. He came on fresh off the bench. He's trying his best to just do enough to stop him scoring without fouling him, but he did foul in the end. And then, you know, the main man steps up, doesn't have a good game. You know, a lot of players who aren't playing well missed a few chances, either wouldn't take the penalty or would miss the penalty. Not him, loves it. Celebration. My 7-year-old will be copying that now. He is copying it as we speak.
You plenty of people copying, I think.
he deserves, listen, he deserves all the credit he gets. But even more so for me is how poor he was in the game, and he still steps up, takes the penalty, and then scores another. That's just him his whole career. It doesn't matter. You know, there's only certain players who are like that, are able to, you know, water off a duck's back, miss a sitter. See the Sweden player miss a sitter last night. He won't sleep over that. Ronaldo just gets on and goes and scores.
I tell you what, looking at two strikers here, lads, I would love to have a terrible game and still score 2 goals, because he banged in another one pretty quickly afterwards, Stephanie.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it? It's particularly, as we mentioned, in a team like this, you're going to get chances. We talked about it before the game, the wasteful chances, and so this is really good play. It's come to the end of the game. Maybe the shackles are off a little bit. They've got that little bit of comfort in the 2-0. Cushion, and it's great play. I thought maybe it could have been offside, but he's done well to stay onside, and it's good, intricate play, and as you say, confident as you like, he takes it around the keeper and slots it home. But look, that's what he's all about.
Can I ask you about the record? Because how much do you think, Stephanie, he really cares? Like, if he gets 4 more, he's got the all-time international scoring record, and as much as he might say, I want it to be about everyone else, you can bet your bottom dollar he wants that record against his name.
Definitely. I think he's probably one of the players that you would say definitely has that little bit of arrogance about him. It's probably why he's got as far as he's got with the records he's broken. He's never happy. He's constantly wanting to go and get more goals, and I think he will do it. I think he will do it. He's an excellent, just an unbelievable goal scorer, and as I said, the mentality and the way he looks after himself, it's all about football. It's all about breaking those records, and as you say, he tries to make it about the team now, this tournament coming up, but I think overall throughout his career he's been about those records.
Yeah, he didn't look like he was liking it yesterday when he was being asked about it. But
I think that's what's kept him going these last years, fueled. You always need the next thing, you know, to keep yourself going for the next pre-season. What do I do to improve? How do I keep myself motivated? I think he uses those records as a way at 36 to stay focused, stay eating the right things, sleeping right, living right, having the body he has. You know, he's 36 and he's the freshest player on the pitch in the last few minutes of the game. You know, scoring that goal, looking sharp in the box. He's a real example. He's not an example in some ways. We're going to have clips of him falling over easily and things like that. And, you know, he's not an example to kids in that sense. But he's a real example to them in other ways. How he lives his life off the pitch, how he's a super athlete. He's made himself into this player. You know, he doesn't have the natural skills of a Messi, but he's made himself into, you know, from when he first got to Manchester United, you see his body and see his shape, and to see him now at 36 in better shape, probably fitter than he was then and a better player.
Can he last a tournament now the way he would have 5 years ago? Because the big question, Kevin, is you look at the group they've got, they still have to go and play France, they have to play Germany, potentially a run through the knockout stages. At 36 years of age, can he still do that for every game? I
do. I think he can. I think he's changed his game. He's not up and down the pitch. He's not, you know, tracking back as far as he once did. He's not, I suppose, doing as much defensively. He's still fresh and fit at the end of the game, but he's managing his game better. He's not sprinting around like a lunatic. He's using his energy in the right ways, in the right areas that a 36-year-old has to do. And he talks, when he's interviewed, I think we've heard him say, I have the body of a 21-year-old. You know?
He has the mind of a 21-year-old as well.
He believes it, and that's half the battle. You know, if you say you're old and feel pain when you get out in the morning, out of bed in the morning, you will have it. If you keep telling yourself. He doesn't. He keeps talking like he's a kid, putting the bottles of water in the press conference and, you know, doing all the right things, telling everyone how he gets in ice baths at 2:30 in the morning. He mightn't be getting in the ice baths, but it's psychological. Everyone thinks it, and you know, it's a big thing to him to feel he's better, bigger, stronger than everyone else. And, you know, that's, to be such a super freak athlete with all those records, you need to do all those things. That's a skill in itself, what he has, besides just what he can do on the pitch.
Well, he's doing it. I mean, he's playing in his 5th European Championships as well, which I think tells us all everything you need to know about him, and scoring in his 5th, which is, you know, just the way that he has done it consistently, I think, for so long is what is so impressive. Let's take a look, Stephanie, at some of the other things that maybe weren't as impressive with Portugal, because they did have a lot of other chances that they didn't convert.
Yeah, we touched on, obviously, the first half they had a lot of wasted chances. This one here, in fairness, is a good... The keeper does really well to get down low. It's a good header by Pepe. He does everything right. He gets up early and gets the header down low, and it's a good save. Again, this one here, it comes to Fernandes, who we mentioned was very, very quiet in the first half. To be fair, he was quiet enough up until that first goal, I think, as well, but he gets a shot off on goal, and again, it's a good save from the keeper. But I think just overall within the game, they won't be happy with the chances they missed, because, as I said before the game, I think you don't often get the little bit of luck that they got today to get that first goal and get them on the way, so they will want to look to fix that for the next few games against better opposition.
What about the Hungarian chances then, Kevin? Because we mentioned the goal that they thought that they had scored, but they had a couple of others as well.
Yeah, so the second half went on. They got, you know, see how many people having in Portugal's half here. Salah, he was really good all game. He ended up, you know, right wing, centre midfield. He's the centre forward, and he put in a massive shift. This is the other centre forward, Salah, with a good strike. What impressed me with them is they tried to get forward, tried to break. This is centre half. Another side who ends up in the box here, you know, and you have to admire their enthusiasm and how they grew into the game. They didn't just put 11 men behind the ball at all times. This is Sean, who just come off the bench, first touch, and you think he's gone and won it for them here. Great bit of skill, but he just end up, you know, the linesman left it as usual till the ball hit the net before he raised his flag. Give all the Portuguese a bit of false hope. Really good, chopped inside strike, first touch on his left foot, and scored to be disallowed. But it just showed they did try get out, they did try create, but, you know, as I said, over 90 minutes doing that and trying to be as careful and cagey as they were, it just brings pressure on, and the Portuguese, good players and decent play and better chances told in the end.
Do you know what, Stephanie? It's the right decision, but what drives football people bananas is the lateness of the flag. Like, the ball is in the net before the flag goes up there.
Yeah, it's frustrating, because I think in studio, when we seen it live, it's like, oh, he's miles offside, he has to be given. But then when it goes on, you're kind of like, maybe they're not going to give it. So it's disappointing for the young player. Just come on, the crowd are celebrating, and then obviously you see the flag up, and it's disappointing for the game. As I said, in studio here, we were jumping out of our seats thinking that they got a late goal that maybe they can hold on to and go and win the game. But yeah, it's frustrating when they do leave it so late, but it's more so heartbreaking for those fans in the stadium and that player in particular.
Would you like to see them flagging that a little bit earlier, though, Kevin?
I suppose you understand it. He wants to be sure, and you can, if he flags it and he's onside, you know, and he makes a mistake, that way we're giving out, why didn't he leave it? And we can use VAR and check it, you know, and that's what he's done. He's left it, let the goal go in, and you can see him, first of all, in the replay, he's gone to put his flag up and he's stopped. He says it, split second, and he's let it go on, and he's obviously been spoken in his ear as the ball's going in. He's definitely offside. They obviously speak about these things, and then he's done it. So it's probably the best of options, you know, in fairness, as hard as it is to see it called back. You know, he's let the play go on. He hasn't stopped a goal. He's waited to see if the decision was right. So we can't have it every way.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And at the end of the day, it's the right decision.
Yeah, and I think we've got used to it as well, haven't we? With VAR now, we're used to it in the Premier League, and obviously in this tournament that they're going to play it through till the end, and then obviously we're kind of all waiting to see if it's going to be given or if it'll be chalked off, which it was. Yeah.
All right, we looked at Cristiano Ronaldo scoring the goals, but as you mentioned earlier, Kevin, a bit of a mixed night.
Yeah, he was. Listen, Hungary did a job on him for the night. It was frustrating. You see him in the first minute, the crowd were getting on his, not his case. He has it week in, week out. He sort of, you know, tries on it and loves it. But this was, you know, people snapping at his heels. The crowd are cheering. He's sticking his tongue out and smiling. He just, you know, had one of those nights where the ball was getting away from him. He was falling over, a bit like Lewandowski last night for Poland. You know, trying to do maybe too much himself. You know, fantastic leap there, unbelievable leap, just couldn't get high enough to head in. This is the one that'll, you know, be really disappointed with. Unlike him, to put that over from the 6-yard box. Great opportunity, great movement to get into that position in the first place. Here, again, I suppose the negative side of him, looking for a penalty when it never was. You see him looking at the player, bumping into him, going down and claiming, but that's just him, and it's his personality, and he's trying to do everything to win. And then at the end of all that, all those poor touches and poor performances, and other managers would have taken him off, but he's Ronaldo, and he decides if he wants to come off for Portugal. Because, you know, he's going to come up with something, and he did. 2 goals. Again, that's all you'll be talking about at the end of the game. You won't be talking about those touches or him falling over. That's why he is who he is.
That's true. And look, he says his strength is being able to adapt, which is what he's done in his career. We even saw 5 years ago in the tournament he was taking the coaching on as well. It does seem that is what he has continuously done, that he has adapted to whatever has been thrown at him.
Yeah, and he does. I think he lives for the game, doesn't he? As we said, he's chasing those records, not just individually, but he wants to win with Portugal and at a club level too. So it's just his mentality. As you say, he's adjusted his game over the last number of years. I think he's always been a very explosive and fast player, but I think now he chooses when to do it. You know, he waits for the right time. I think we've seen it in the first half, at half-time, with a couple of those clips where he runs in behind. His time that he runs is a little bit more. He's not going to be constantly running everywhere, you know, and I think he uses those moments a little bit more cleverly, and it's paid off for him tonight. He's got the opportunities, and as you said, he's done the business when it mattered, and that's what it is. He's just that winning mentality and a phenomenal athlete.
Well, he's going to need a couple of other stars around him. One of them, Diego Jota, and what he has done. Popped up a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Didn't work for him in the end, but he was there everywhere.
He had a good first half until he got to attempts on goal. He got into great positions. Great shot here. If he lays it to Ronaldo, it's definitely a goal. You can see why he shot himself. This one, you'd imagine he'd have let it come across into his left. He didn't think he had as much time as he did. He could have taken a touch or better technique on his right. Listen, he's involved in different things in the first half. He was, he's a big player for Portugal, getting back there, defensive work on the left wing. It just a frustrating night, and it wasn't just him. Fernandes was quiet. At least here, it's a great turn, swivel, and unfortunately went straight at the keeper. At least he was involved, and he had his chances, and he didn't take him tonight. He probably will the next day. Fernandes would be the one, if I was Portugal, I'd be a bit more worried about. It's hard. Jota, Fernandes, Silva, Ronaldo. He felt like, looking at Fernandes tonight, he was getting out of the way of other people. He had to move and get out of positions that he'd like to be in. It's tough for Portugal to get all that mix to work together. You saw when they made the changes around Sanchez and Silva, brought on a proper centre forward, and things seemed to work more naturally, whether it was Hungary and tired or whatever, but they got the 2 goals straight away. And you wonder if that's something they'll have to think of in the next game. You can't fit all those good players. They won't work together. We need to try something different.
That is the problem, though, Stephanie. Both of you, even as we were watching it, you were watching the ball that you were putting in and saying that would be the ideal ball for a big centre forward, let it in there. But they're trying to play a game that doesn't actually suit what's happening in there.
Yeah, and I think as well, credit has to go to Hungary as well at times as well. They kind of block that space where Fernandes would like to work in. And as you say, you've got all the players kind of looking to come to the ball and get on it. But yeah, I think they were missing that kind of centre forward who might actually. Ronaldo had done it a little bit in the first half. He did try to do it at times to try and get them stretched a little bit to create that space for, I think, particularly Fernandes. I think Ronaldo was dropping in a lot of the time where Fernandes needed to go, and I think Fernandes kind of stayed, so he didn't really kind of get himself into the game. But I agree with Kevin. I don't know whether it was down to maybe Hungary getting a little bit tired. When those substitutes were made, it kind of seemed to fit a little bit better. Now, again, I'm not going to be the one to make the decision to drop a player like Bruno Fernandes in a top tournament, so it'll be interesting to see what they do in the next game. But I think in the next game there might be a little bit more room to play around, and I think Hungary, with the way they set up, it made it a little bit more difficult for those players to get on the ball.
Now, a lot of it might depend on what we see later on tonight between France and Germany, but obviously this group of death, as we're going to continue to call this throughout the tournament, I'm sure, Kevin, now that you've seen Portugal, we're going to get eyes on later on tonight as well. How are you feeling now after seeing Portugal?
I don't know. Listen, the whole competition is so open. I know it's just this group alone, but the whole competition is the first time I've really gone and I can't pin down someone I think is going to win it. Portugal tonight, they didn't play great and they managed to win the game 3-0. Maybe that's the first game out of their system and they can only improve from here. France have the players in the squad. Definitely, they're probably the most potent attack. They're relying on Mbappe to have a good tournament, I think, and you'd imagine he will. He's had a great season. Germany, I thought, were, I went through their squad as well. Every squad you look at, you see all these players. Germany have a great squad and they're not being talked about. And then I said it to Didier Human, who know a lot more than I would, and he didn't fancy Germany this year at all. So, listen, the whole tournament is great. You can't pick anyone. Everyone has their own opinion. Belgium are a lot of people's favourites after seeing Italy the other night. It's hard to write off Italy, and they were so good against sort of some people's dark horses to go fairly far in Turkey, and they just annihilated them. So you could come up with probably 6 or 7 teams and have a plausible case for each of them win the tournament.
I think it makes it all the more difficult when you see only Spain have won it back-to-back. You look at Portugal now, and just for all the reasons that Kevin has outlined is what makes it so hard for them to do that this time round.
Yeah, it's the group, isn't it? It's going to be a difficult group for them to get out of, and I think they were lucky in spells tonight, but it'll depend now on how these next 2 games go for them. I think we talked about goal difference. They've got 3 goals tonight where we thought they probably wouldn't get them. If it comes down to that, maybe it might just tip in their favour. But I'm kind of with Kevin as well. I think maybe Italy, for me, could be dark horses. You know, I think they've surprised everybody with their performance and kind of gone a little bit under the radar. I think 28 games unbeaten under Roberto Mancini. So I was impressed with them, I have to say, in their first game.
All right, well, we shall see. I'm sure France and Germany will have something to say about it all later on.